tuning in to Minds of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and with me today I have Jared Ross. He is a NFT consultant, a cryptocurrency consultant, and a metaverse business strategist. And I'm looking really forward to our conversation today. Jared, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jared T. Ross, and I am your guide through the metaverse. I'm here to help you figure out how to navigate, build, and profit inside of the metaverse of cryptocurrency, NFTs, virtual reality, blockchain, and all the tech that connects them all.
Awesome. So I think a good place for us to start is to get a little bit of information on your background. Like, how'd you come into the space? How'd you start this, consulting and, just your background?
For sure. So I initially got into cryptocurrency back in 2017 when slight hype around it towards the end of that year. And I was in high school at the time. So I was still trying to figure all this stuff out. I got some XRP, I got some Stellar Lumen, some Bitcoin. I was kind of just all over the place trying to catch the hype. So that was my first real experience taking an L because I got in at the tail end of 2017. And then early in 2018, we had a huge tank. So I learned that lesson the hard way, but I held on to it. I didn't cash out and give up because I started just to notice, start reading some articles and started to realize the potential of this technology. Since I am younger, I had a bit of a better understanding of what potential this type of stuff actually held. But there was a large gap of time where I didn't really do much. Like I would keep an eye on the crypto market, but I didn't really go deep into it. And so I still continued to learn bits and pieces here, but I never really committed myself to learning and exploring the space. But over time, I started getting more and more familiar. I started understanding. So when people would ask questions, I started noticing, hey, I actually had an answer and it was the right one. Maybe I couldn't answer everything, but a few of those simple questions, absolutely. So it wasn't until I retired from college earlier this year when I really dove deep into cryptocurrency, NFTs, and the whole metaverse. And what I started to realize is I had a really good way of taking in information and distilling it down to its core concepts and explaining that to people in ways that they could receive it. And so once I figured that out, people started asking me more and more questions, and I had an easy way to explain it in a way that allowed them to interact and actually get on board with it. I said, hey, I might as well double down on this and help more people and learn more about the space myself.
Right. And so what was it that really clicked for you when you were learning about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, that this would be a crucial role in the metaverse?
It's kind of a collection of media that helped me connect the dots to us. One of the key movies was Ready Player One. And if anybody has not seen that, I highly recommend you take that as a piece of homework, that you go and you watch that film. Because Ready Player One, it's this dystopian future where we're in like 2046 and everyone's wearing VR headsets. And you go into these completely immersive virtual worlds where you have the full body haptic suits, so you can feel everything in these virtual worlds. But that's really where people live. So they kind of recreated the entire Earth in these worlds, and people can go and explore to all these even different planets. But you actually have a full economy in there. So people are probably transacting with cryptocurrency inside of these digital worlds. Another thing that really helped me get on board with cryptocurrency is the use cases for people who don't have as much access. In Afghanistan, I believe there was a bank run, and there's a whole bunch of people who can't access their money now because the banks don't have it. Whereas in cryptocurrency, a lot of that problem can be circumvented. You don't have to go through that because it's decentralized. And of course, there's certain platforms, exchanges that are centralized, but cryptocurrency opens that door to decentralization.
Right. And I think you bring up a good point with when you're talking about other countries that may not have the kind of accessibility as, we do here in the United States, where, you can go to your bank right away. You don't have issues. There's not as much of a stronghold on the financial system. I remember reading back when I got into crypto as well, which is around the same time as you in like 2016, 2017. I was big into Litecoin at the time. I was really sold on the narrative of it being the silver and Bitcoin being gold. But then, Charlie Lee, the founder, dumps all his coins on the community. But anyway, I digress. In Afghanistan, I found out that there was this woman-led company that was able to pay her employees through Bitcoin. And that's a huge enabler for people that are in these countries where their currencies are, their currencies are crumbling, their financial infrastructures are crumbling. And I think in the future, it's going to play a huge role for even us here in the first world countries, in the United States or in the Western world, because there's a concern of digital currencies being produced by central banks, and then you have mass surveillance. And I think cryptocurrencies will be a good way for people to circumvent whatever kind of negative interest rates they'll be implementing with that. But when you bring up the Ready Player One, that was something for me too when I watched that movie that helped me really clarify where this whole realm is heading towards. And one of the big things that I think is probably even more essential than cryptocurrency, not more essential, but equally as important rather, are NFTs. So what was it about, and like, when did you learn about NFTs and when did that click for you? Because that seems to be even harder for people to grasp than cryptocurrencies, because people can understand that I don't really hold my cash, it's in a bank account. And so you just think of the same way along the same lines with crypto. But then when you're talking about NFTs, people will look at you like you're crazy for buying a rock, and then they can't believe that you can sell it for $1 million. So what was it for you that really clicked?
At first it didn't, but like most people, but the difference with me is I didn't argue with it. I didn't say, oh, that doesn't make any sense, and then ignore it. I paid attention, and I didn't start really hearing that term until late last year. So I would say I was kind of late to the game, or at least, on the same time as a lot of people are now. But when I heard about these things, I didn't spend time arguing. I was like, oh, it's kind of strange. But let me look more into this, because obviously there's a lot more attention coming to this place. So I'm going to trust that these people are having their attention here for a very good reason. And something that I started the dots to was trading cards. Now, I'm someone who was never myself into trading cards, but I find it's a very useful concept to help connect the dots to people. So when you think about trading cards or Pokemon cards, for example, you would buy these, and some can go for hundreds of thousands, millions of cards if we're talking about the sports world. And the thing is, a lot of people buy these things for that personal satisfaction, for that pride of saying, oh, I have this super rare card and I can prove it because I can show you right here. Now, when people come into the NFT space, they think, oh, all these are just pictures, JPEGs. There's a whole bunch of memes about JPEGs. And so people just say, oh, why can't I just screenshot it? You certainly can, but you can't prove that you own that. You can't have that personal pride. A lot of it is just pride. Sometimes it is, but we're getting into a space where NFTs are becoming more and more developed and advanced and are actually having utility now. So with utility, you can actually use these NFTs for passes into real world experiences. Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, he just launched his NFT project. And instead of having just these characters where people can say, oh, I have this super rare one, you can have that, but you can also use it as passes into his venues, into his events over the course of years. And there's even some NFTs where if you have this one, you'll be able to reserve a time to FaceTime Gary Vee or go to a courtside basketball game with him. So you can build as much value as you want into these NFTs, because you might launch these NFTs and then 10 years down the line, you say, okay, any holder of my NFT now gets this bonus, or now gets to come have dinner with me. So you can just keep adding and adding value. So some people have explained it as kind of like a personal stock, where the value of that NFT will rise as that individual, their fame and their notoriety and their success continues to increase. But there's a lot of different categories for NFTs. That's just an example that's linked to a particular individual. You can also link it to businesses, where people can then buy an NFT to then redeem for a product or service from that business. So that is a way to enable cryptocurrency payments in a traditional business environment. But there's so much. And I like to connect it back to Ready Player One as well, because when you're in these virtual games, you have these upgrades that you can buy. You can buy different weapons, you can buy different skins and clothes for your avatar, different cars. All of those can be NFTs. There can be limited amounts of them that you would pay in cryptocurrency. You get a unique digital identifier to signify that you now own this NFT. It's in your cryptocurrency wallet, and only you can put this on your avatar inside of this metaverse, which is inside Ready Player One.
Right. And I think so with Ready Player One, it's more of a dystopian movie about what's going to happen, what they predict to be coming in the future. I can't say what they predict. I mean, it's science fiction, and it's guiding our imaginations towards that reality. And I would have to say that with Ethereum, it actually enables, people like you and I to avoid those centralized metaverses, or like Facebook is currently developing the metaverse. They're trying to develop one metaverse, but with Ethereum and NFTs and the whole blockchain that we have in front of us, it really gives the people the ability to actually build the metaverse as we want to see it, to avoid a future like Ready Player One, where you have a dystopian overlord kind of vibe. But obviously, I won't ruin anything. It's not like, anyway,
Right.
don't want to give any spoilers, but you were going to say
Yeah.
something?
Yes, I want to just quickly explain this idea of the metaverse, because you
Yeah,
hear
go ahead.
this term thrown out all the time, and I feel like there's so many people who just say it and they trust that the audience gets the idea, and some people might, but not enough people are actually giving it a definition, because it is something that's kind of hard to define. So depending on who you ask, you're probably going to get a different definition. But my own is, I always like to relate it back to the internet. When we think about the internet, we would never say that the internet is any one particular app, any one particular website, even one particular internet service provider. Instead, it's all the technologies that interconnect to these things and allow them to operate together. So when we think about the metaverse, some keywords and technologies that come to mind is crypto, blockchain, NFTs, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these different things. But none of those things in and of themselves are the metaverse. Instead, it's the interconnectivity between all of them. It's all the tech that allows them to be interoperable. So when you get to that point, and it's not going to be clearly defined, but once you start seeing more interoperability between these different games, between these different platforms, that's when you start getting into the metaverse. So Fortnite, for example, that's a form of the metaverse. That's just one little area. Then you also have crypto voxels or Decentraland. These are different virtual worlds. And all these are parts of the metaverse, but they aren't the metaverse in and of themselves. It's when they start merging together that they become the metaverse. So something that you just mentioned that's really cool about the metaverse and decentralization is that people really do have more control, more influence. Because when you look at something like Fortnite, an example of the metaverse, typically you would never see Marvel and DC in the same game, in the same universe. But in Fortnite, that happens. They have the same, you can put the Marvel skins and the DC skins and y'all can play together in the same world, because people are increasingly demanding that inside of these metaverses. They want that interoperability between these different platforms and this different intellectual property. So that's just a bit more clarity on what we mean when we say metaverse. It could mean a whole host of things, but now you have a good sense of what that world really is.
Right. And thank you for defining that. You're absolutely right. It is still novel to most people what that idea is. And I mean, it's coming to fruition in front of our eyes, and it's going to be very entertaining participating in it and also watching it develop. So with NFTs, you were exactly right on the money that there's multiple use cases for them. And one of the main use cases that I'm seeing being presented now is the PVP or the PFP, so proof for picture. So basically, for anybody that's not aware of what that means, it's essentially these NFTs that are serving as your avatar that you will post as your profile picture across social media. And then a lot of these projects, what they're doing now is making it so your avatar that you purchase is going to be utilized in the game that they're creating or this metaverse that they're creating. And so I think that this is in a very important step in the development of the metaverse, simply because you are getting to choose right now who you want to be in the metaverse. Because I'm sure, as you're seeing right now, you have the Bored Apes Yacht Club, you have CryptoPunks, you have the Penguins. A lot of these big names right now are not only just the JPEG, they're more than a JPEG technically, but anyway, they serve more than just a picture because it's like you're identifying with a community, and that community is going to help build the metaverse. You have any reflections on that?
It's such an interesting thing when you start getting into NFTs. You really do start taking pride in them. Like I did not expect that for myself, but as I started collecting some NFTs, like profile picture ones that are these characters, I start really smiling. I'm thinking, that's mine. That's mine. That's me. And you really start to identify with these different things and have some pride. And when you look at your cryptocurrency wallet, these different NFTs in there, it's very interesting what's going on. And it's going to be even better when we get to a more true form of the metaverse, where you can use these NFTs of these characters to go into different worlds. Because while they may start in their own little game, their own little metaverse, what if you can start taking them into other ones and engaging in those areas? Then the value is going to keep going up. So it's exciting.
It really is. And I think that the blockchain games are at the forefront of this interoperability of what you're talking about because, well, to backtrack, when I first heard of blockchain games, I didn't think anything of them initially because when I think of the blockchain, going back to like 2016, 17, learning about the blockchain, it's like, okay, well, what's the best use case for it? Well, essentially censorship resistance. You can make transactions and not be denied your transaction. And that's huge. That provides a lot of value. However, it's not very efficient when it comes to a lot of other things, because it's not scalable, it's decentralized, and decentralization is not that great for scaling. Centralized is. And so when I heard of blockchain games, I was like, this doesn't make very much sense to me. But I had a guest on the show who is actually a Solidity developer. So he codes for Ethereum. He is the author of EIP 2535, which is a diamond standard. And basically it's smart. What he did is he allowed for smart contracts to pull from other smart contracts without bloating up the sizes or anything. A really cool idea, I think. And he's actually the one that, elucidated the blockchain technology for me in the games because he started talking about how you can use these NFTs on different platforms, how you can stake them. There's a lot of cool things that go into this. Now, for you personally, what is it that excites you most about NFTs? Is there a particular use case? Because like you mentioned, Gary Vee with the V Friends, he also has another project he's working on for restaurants, where I think he has this restaurant that he's partnered. I could be wrong on this, but I remember reading an article that some main figure, and I think it was Gary Vee, that has an NFT coming out where you will have to produce that NFT to enter into this real world restaurant. So what's like the most exciting use case for you that you see developing right now, or you would like to see come to fruition in the future?
Well, I didn't know about that new project that he was working on, so I'm going to have to look into that. But what excites me about use cases for NFTs, it's so wide ranging because any business, any art, any product or service can be integrated into NFTs, and I really really like that. I like that accessibility that people have. Now, it might be a little bit hard to first wrap your head around how to integrate your business into that, but there's likely going to be a way. And so what really excites me, well, I'll actually share something that I'm in talks with. It's not official yet, but there are a few projects out there who are trying to integrate NFTs with philanthropy. And I think that's a really exciting idea because you already have this concept of buying an NFT where people take a lot of pride in that. And they can hold on to it and they can show people and say, hey, I have this right here. I did this thing. So when you pair NFTs with philanthropy, people can now have a tax write-off for buying this massively expensive NFT that's going to a good cause, while also holding on to a receipt where now they can show everyone, yeah, I did this. Remember that $3 million sale for this NFT project? Yeah, I got this right here. So I think that kind of incentivizes even more philanthropic endeavors. And it would be cool to see some more projects develop in that area and develop with some utility attached to it, whether that be a banquet for donors every year or every, maybe just once. But there's so much that you can do with NFTs. And the coolest part is you can keep adding, you can add infinite value, as much value as you want. You can just keep saying, hey, this month I'm giving all my NFT holders, a free pass to my basketball game or a free pass to my football game. You can just continue to add value so that people see it as worth more, and they feel more connected to you as the creator or the organization who created this NFT.
Right. And I think that you've been hitting on a really good point, and that is the pride that comes along with owning the NFT. It may be difficult for some to realize that this is another form of social signaling. So you buy a Rolex. Why do you buy a Rolex? Your phone tells time better than a Rolex does, but you buy the Rolex as sort of a flex, right? To show people I have money. I have money, and I have good taste. And so that's sort of what NFTs are providing as well. And that's gonna balloon, I think, and especially with the philanthropic endeavors as you've discussed. I think that that's going to have something I haven't even thought about. That's a really interesting use case, and I would like to see that further developed. Now, something that really excites me about NFTs, particularly, is the fact that artists will be able to continuously receive royalties. Like it's totally dismantling the status quo. It's doing away with like the music industry, like having record labels. I used to be a big hip hop head growing up, man. I would like the NWA story, where they didn't all get a fair deal from the record label, but then if you get something like NFTs, you can eliminate that issue entirely because the artist is selling direct to consumer, and then that consumer is going to be able to sell that hopefully for a higher price. And if they sell it for a higher price, they're winning, but then also the artist on the back end is still collecting royalties as the price goes up. And as we were talking off camera about the NFT archaeology that's taking place right now, this is also something that really excites me because you have these artists who have been long forgotten for 4 or 5 years. And that's in crypto time, 4 years is like 100 years. Like you miss so much in 4 years, right? And so 4 years ago, you have these elaborate NFT projects that may have been forgotten had it not been for these archaeologists. And then they're recovering them and then putting them back out into the zeitgeist. And then that right there is expediting what typically happens in the traditional art world, where you have like a Van Gogh, right? Where he didn't get any recognition until after his death. And so now you're eliminating that entirely, it seems to me. And it's immortalizing a lot of stuff, if you will. And it's going to be in the metaverse. The metaverse is going to play a huge role in that. Going back to Ready Player One, I think of the museum that he would attend to gather all the information of the founder trying to discover these Easter eggs and clues. It's just exciting to where we're going and how it's going to help so many people out. Because there's a concern too with the metaverse and it being akin or a predecessor to a Matrix-like world. So there's also some negative aspects when it comes to this, but a lot of good ones as well.
Yes, I think overwhelmingly there's a lot of positives to the development of the metaverse. And exactly what you just said. One is it's going to be helping artists maintain royalties forever on their artwork. And two, it's a storehouse of wealth. These wealthy people can buy these NFTs, and if it maintains its value, then they can sell that, they can pass it on to their children. It can go down the generations, and that can be kept within the family. That NFT can be just passed through the family and serve as a storehouse of wealth. And like he was mentioning, artists are going to be able to sell things one time and they get to set their own royalty percentage. So if I buy something, if I buy one of their albums or one of their songs, for $10. And then a year from now, I then sell it for $1,000. But that artist put a 10% royalty on that NFT. So when I sell it again, they're going to get 10% of not only that sale, but all future sales forever because it's written on the blockchain. And so every time a transaction happens with that NFT, 10% is going to go right back to that artist's wallet with no permission. Nobody has to give any green lights. It just happens because of the smart contracts that are connected to the NFTs. So it's going to give a lot of people a lot more freedom to express themselves creatively. So I'm excited about it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you mentioned earlier Decentraland. Were you able, or have you purchased any land in there and started to build something in that world, or you still just watching? I'm just watching right now because you don't know which one's going to pop off, right? You
Right.
don't know which one's going to be the one, and you don't want to
Right.
spend money in land. But anyway,
Yeah. So there's a couple of these virtual worlds that are being called little metaverses, right? You have Decentraland, you have crypto voxels, and there's a few others, but another one that I'm really excited about is called Somnium Space. And I think it's a whole step up from Decentraland and crypto voxels. You have a lot more interactivity, a lot more freedom to navigate in that world, and you can play in virtual reality in that game. Now, I will say that I am in talks with some professional athletes about doing a project inside of crypto voxels. And we have chosen crypto voxels because of its accessibility. So if you're looking to build something, because what you can do in these virtual worlds is buy land. So you're going to have to spend a few $1,000s in most cases to buy this virtual land. But you can buy it and then you can build on it. And people were thinking, okay, why would I do that? I just go play Minecraft or something where I don't have to pay for this land. The reason why you pay for this virtual land is because you can actually monetize it. What some people are doing is they'll build, say, a museum. So this virtual museum where people can walk in and they can tour around and see all this different art along the walls. Now, this art, they're actually NFTs that are embedded right into the game. So someone can walk in to this virtual world, they can see this art and they say, oh, I like this one. They can click on it right in the game, and it's going to open up a new tab and allow you to purchase that from an NFT marketplace like OpenSea.
mm-hmm.
So imagine this. Imagine you build yourself a museum in one of these virtual worlds and you have a lot of traffic, right? You have an audience, you have people coming in there regularly. Artists can reach out to you and say, hey, I'll pay you, $50 worth of Ethereum each month if you're willing to showcase my art inside your museum. Right? There's an opportunity to monetize that. Another opportunity for music artists is people are going to increasingly have virtual concerts. So you can buy a venue, you can build on it, create your little stage and everything, and people can come to these virtual venues and pay with Ethereum or buy an NFT in order to get to this place. So you can accept concert ticket sales for yourself, or you can allow other artists to come and rent that space from you for their own concert. So there's lots of different use cases for monetizing this virtual land as to why we want to build in it. But anyways, yes, I am working on a project. We're still ironing out the details. So I personally have not purchased any land yet, but I do plan to in the near future.
Right on. Yeah, I've debated it myself simply because it's obvious these lands, these plots are going to be extremely valuable as the metaverse continuously evolves, these NFT projects evolve. And as you said, there's a lot of potential to make residual income from owning these plots of lands by building venues and then renting them out. That actually reminds me of the new development that's taking place, the play to earn. That's a huge thing right now. You got like Axie Infinity, I believe, is like the big one. You have Yield to Game Guild or something like that. Yield to Guild or something. I don't know. But there's a few other ones as well. And I think that they're laying sort of the foundation down for people to eventually not just play video games, but to have an incentive to participate in these worlds, because everything's becoming tokenized. And if you think about it, in the real world, everything does cost something, right? I mean, you may not actually pay a dollar bill for, the use of this pen, right? I can use this pen essentially for free on my notepad. However, I am exerting some sort of effort to perform that task. And as we're becoming more immersed in the virtual reality, I think it's just going to exacerbate what is already taking place in the physical world, and that being these transactions. But now people will be actually able to profit from their communities, from their venues, from their interactions with people. And I think that's going to be really huge and liberating, right? Because you could essentially get into a community and then make a living off of just participating in a community that you enjoy to be around, as opposed to going to your 9 to 5 or going to college for things that are quickly outdated in the educational system. But that's also another thing that I would like to hear your take on, is if you've even thought about it, how the blockchain, NFTs, and maybe even virtual reality, how they could enhance education.
Hmm. I'm gonna get to that in a moment. I do want to comment a little bit on what you were talking about, playing to earn. When I think about that, it's really exciting because I see a world where people go to work inside the metaverse. Already, we have people playing like things like Grand Theft Auto, where they go into these worlds and they role play. People will role play being a cop on these online servers, and actually go and stop other players from committing crimes in this virtual world. Eventually, I think they're going to get paid to do that, whether that be in cryptocurrency or just small little bits each time they do it. But I very much see that as a reality in the future. People will put on their headset to go to work, and they'll just play right there and work from home. But anyways, you say your question again?
Education. How do you
Right.
think that will be changed with NFTs? And because I've thought about like there being like NFT certificates or diplomas even.
Mhm. I very much see that as a thing that's happening. The issue is, higher education, it moves so slow. And that's one of the reasons why I retired, is it just wasn't going fast enough for me. Like I always say, the future moves faster. And what that means is that the rate of innovation is increasing. And so it gets increasingly harder to keep up with the times if you're not moving fast enough, if you're not staying educated. And higher education, they have so much red tape that it kind of slows them down when it comes to adapting. So it's going to be far in between when a college has a class or an entire course on cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs. Of course, they're out there, but widespread, not at all. But eventually, I do see maybe even some colleges accepting payment in cryptocurrency, or you buy an NFT once you've been accepted in order to secure your enrollment in the program for however many years. So I do see it being integrated at some point, maybe even degrees on the blockchain. Absolutely. I can see there's a very real possibility, but more so, I think the first version of moving in that direction is going to be having more classes inside of the metaverse. Like we've already had a little taste now doing all this stuff on Zoom, but you might go into a virtual game like Crypto Voxels, and you can have a classroom. Already, I know people who hold classes and like seminars by streaming inside of Crypto Voxels. So they'll say, hey, everyone go to this link. And then when people type in this link into their browser, it'll go immediately to certain coordinates inside of Crypto Voxels, inside of this virtual world. And then you can look up and you can see a screen, and right there, a class is streaming right there for you. So I do see that as a first iteration, the first step towards education moving more online, is having classes inside of the metaverse.
That's really cool. So what exactly if you can, tell me tell me the details as to what, the people that are streaming these classrooms, what are they teaching exactly?
A lot of it is just basics of cryptocurrency, basics of blockchain, or they'll just host, how like influencers will have their own webinars and seminars on Zoom. They'll promote it to their audience on Instagram. It's somewhat just like that. So they may talk about these different projects. They may talk about how all these celebrities are eventually going to be moving into the metaverse. So talk about whatever it might be. But so you have those live classes that you can do, but you can also, if you have land and you build on it, you can just embed videos right inside, like YouTube videos, and they're going to be HD. They're going to be high quality. You can embed these videos right inside of this of the walls, and then people can just walk in. They can click on one video, watch it, and then go to the next one, click on it, watch it. So you have these course creation websites like Kajabi or Teachable, where people are putting their courses. But you can also do that right inside of the metaverse. You can do that in these virtual worlds where you just embed your course on the walls of your building.
Right. Yeah, it's very exciting. I actually think that the first international VR high school is in Florida, and I just learned about this like a week or ago, like a week ago. Yeah, this teacher partnered up with some VR company, and they're making courses in virtual reality. And essentially, I mean, it's going to contribute to the metaverse, and that's something that is promising to me, especially if you look at history. So I'm a big history buff, right? I love learning about history of a bunch of different things. And if you think about how it would be to learn about history, but actually going there, like imagine actually going to the battlefield and the Civil Wars, right? Like Gettysburg, being there as Lincoln was giving the speech, being able to recreate these worlds and then participating. I think it's going to enrich the education that people receive. And there's concerns with that as well, though, simply because we don't know how accurate we can actually portray these things, right? But it's there's just a lot of cool things that can be done with this, and that's actually one thing in particular that I'm most excited about. And another thing that I actually see, and maybe you can reflect on this, taking place is, I would even say, eventually you're going to see some sort of, like, I would say, political debates, if you will, like the way, like, sorry, I'm trying to articulate this properly. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I can see that there being conventions that are exclusive in the metaverse and virtual reality, where you would have to show an NFT to participate, and then you'd be able to watch these, as you said, like concerts. But it can extend much further to that, to governance, because you have these things in the metaverse currently, or NFTs more specifically, where you can own not just a plot of land, but you can actually buy cities, and then you can sell plots of lands within those cities, and then eventually, you're going to have some sort of governance over those cities. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the internal governments evolve in these systems as well.
That's exciting. I haven't thought about that, but I can see that as a very, very real possibility. Yeah, that's cool. Like in order to get into these council meetings, you would have to have the NFT, and that's wow, that's good. That kind of breaks down barriers because maybe people are all over the world and they need to come to this one place in the real world, when instead they just have this NFT they could put on their headset and there they go.
Right. It's like DAOs. Are you familiar with DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organizations?
Yep.
I think they're going to play a big role in the development of things like that, because, well, they're essentially governments. They're trying to create these communities in which they govern something within them.
Mhm.
Now, in your line of work, you're a metaverse business strategist. What would you recommend people do to just get a basic understanding of what this is and what they can do to, whether it be create something as an NFT or network and find, because you were able, I heard your story about meeting Kanye West, and then I heard your presentation on networking and that being super important. So, what would be some things that you would tell people who are interested to learn more but don't know where to start?
One is that YouTube has a lot of free content. I even have some free content where I give you a masterclass on going through NFTs, what they are, how to market them, why people buy them, how to create them for yourselves, and then some NFT marketplaces. But what I really recommend is, one, doing your homework by watching Ready Player One, just to get an overall view, just a little taste of what this world may look like. And then two is you should go and buy an NFT for yourself. And I know a lot of times you see these massive prices, right? You don't have to spend that much. People have NFTs. I have one for like $15 worth of Ethereum. So you can go onto a platform like Rarible or OpenSea or Nifty Gateway, all these different NFT marketplaces, and you go and buy yourself one just so that you have that experience. I would highly recommend buying one that has something called unlockable content, and it will be denoted right next to the listing. But I recommend buying an NFT for yourself so that you have the experience. You've gone through the process. You've set up your wallet. I recommend MetaMask for beginners. You set up your wallet. You go through the process of acquiring Ethereum, of purchasing an NFT, just so that you get a taste of what this looks like and why so many people are interested in it. After you've done that, continue to watch YouTube videos understanding the world of NFTs. And eventually, if you have a product or service or art form, start thinking of ways that you can integrate your own line of work into NFTs. And there'll be tutorials out there on how you can create your own NFT. Again, I have some on my channel. But you go through that, and just so that you have the experience, not to make any big money. Don't go into this thinking you're going to become a millionaire, because you very well can, but you need some context first and foremost. So just dabble in it, buy an NFT, and then create one. Even if you don't plan on selling it, you can just create one and not even list it for sale. It doesn't have to, you can just take a picture off your phone and just go through the process of what's called minting an NFT for yourself, just so you have some more context. And from that point, your mind starts opening up. You start having these different questions than you have now, and you start exploring a little bit and trust that instinct once you've gone through those few steps.
Right. That's really good advice. That's sort of that's the best way I learn, is just by doing. Like I spent a lot of time learning about NFTs when I first discovered them, and they clicked for me right away because I'm an artist. I like to write. I write poetry. I write short stories. I've made music. I used to rap back in the day. So this sort of clicked for me right away. And I used to be into like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, that kind of stuff. So I understood the utility of them. And once I started learning about NFTs, the first thing I did before I bought one, anything like that, and after I learned what they were, I was like, you know what? Why don't I just try to post some of my poetry on there? Like start minting my own thing just to see how that process is. And I think that is the best way to learn, just getting right in there and taking the plunge, because it's a rabbit hole. Once you get in, you're just going to keep discovering new use cases and how expansive this whole space is. And I think what you're doing as far as consulting and guiding people along the way is extremely valuable. I think that there isn't enough education when it comes to this in particular. Like myself, I'm sure maybe it's the same for you. I had to learn all on my own. I didn't have anybody I could call to be like, hey, can you walk me through setting up my MetaMask? Can you walk me through the process of doing this? Yes, you have YouTube videos and things like that, as you mentioned, but it's different when you can actually have a trusted person, an actual person help you through this. And I think that's a huge opportunity in this space right now, is providing, consultations, education. So, it's really good what you're doing. I think it's important. I don't think there's enough of it.
Thank you. And yes, the thing is with the whole space of metaverse, it can be terrifying to get into because there's all these terms that you have no idea. Things are just going right over your head. It's okay. It's okay. But I ask that you continue to learn. It's a scary place until you start getting a sense of what these words mean, of how to protect yourself, of how to get into these different cryptocurrencies, these different NFTs. It can be very confusing. So I do recommend find somebody who knows how to break things down simply or just in a way that you understand best. And you stick with them, continue to learn from them, pick up on the vernacular, be looking up terms that you don't know, and just stay tuned in to different people who you trust to guide you through. And if you can, talk with somebody one-on-one who has gone through this process of setting stuff up. Make sure it's someone you trust, because if you get with somebody who you don't trust, they could scam you. They could get into your wallet, and you don't want that to happen. But yes, absolutely. Thank you. And I plan on continuing to help people enter the metaverse.
Right. And I think a good space for people to look at too is Twitter, crypto Twitter. That is it's an extremely valuable resource to have. And warning, once you get in there, it's going to be hard to look away from your phone because the space just moves so fast and you can miss a big drop, right, on a certain project. But that's another thing too. Like there's a lot of FOMO going on because we're in a bull market, but the bear market comes next. The bull markets don't last forever. And it's important to, as everybody says, it's such a cliche in the space. Don't put more money in than you're willing to lose. And I think that it's important for people who are interested in the space to focus on things you like, things that you would be willing to hold on to, even if you were to lose money. Find a community that's good, that you click with, that you resonate with, and you're not afraid that the price is going to go down because you appreciate the community, you appreciate the project, you have faith, or the team or whatever that may be. I think that's also an important thing in the space, is to realize that what's even more important than the utility of the project, which is important, is the community, because we're talking about things that have subjective value. And so depending on the community is going to, if the community is good, the value will be decent at least. And and so that's equally as important, is finding a space in which you resonate with, a good community.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very tempting. A lot of people are now looking at cryptocurrency and NFTs because they think it's a money grab. They think it's a lottery ticket for them to get rich quick. And yes, that can happen, but approaching it in that way is likely to get you hurt. It just is. And I'm guilty of it myself. There's some projects that I've gotten into just because I thought I was going to, be able to flip this very quick and make a lot of money. Absolutely, it happens. But really be honest with yourself. If you're looking at this space just to get rich, okay, have that intention, but don't run at it. Walk and learn your way around the space first, because you may have those early adopters, but the people who are truly going to build wealth on the blockchain are those who are the early understanders. Because you have these influencers right now who are launching their own NFT projects, but you have to ask yourself, do they truly understand what they're doing and where the future is going? Because they may be first, but if you and I have a better understanding, then long term, we're going to come out on top. We're going to come out more prepared and better equipped to take advantage of the space that is developing. So absolutely, and community is one of the biggest things I talk about, whether it be a cryptocurrency coin or an NFT project. Community is going to make or break you. So pay special close attention to the community around these different projects and make sure it's something that looks like it's going to be long lasting and one that you want to be around. Like Gary Vee, I think he's good with his NFT because of that incredibly powerful community.
Me too. I completely agree. And I kick myself in the butt, man, because I knew about VeeFriends way before the launch. Because I follow Gary Vee, and I heard he's been talking about it for a while. And I remember when he was still talking about how he's going to do the auction, how much ETH you should have. And I was tempted. I was like, you know what? I like Gary Vee. He's able to build communities, but I I didn't jump on the VeeFriends train quick enough. I know it's still early. That's the other thing. Like, it's still so early. And I think the most important thing to do is education right now. And, like we've already talked about, dipping your toes in the water, finding out what it's like. But also another good thing to keep in the back of your mind is that traders, most times, I know there's a lot of flippers when it comes to NFTs and even cryptocurrencies, the day trading. 90% of them, they're going to lose all their stack. They're not going to make a profit. The people who really make profits in the space are the people who have a long-term vision and they hold for long-term, and those who create. If you're going to create something or you're going to hold long-term, you're going to have the best outcome. And I think, I'm no professional in the space myself, but I think one of the most important things to look into when you're considering an NFT is, what are they contributing to the space in general? Not just the community, not just the hype, but how are they going to help develop this long term? I think that's something very crucial. And are they developing a space that you want to be a part of? Because we're seeing a lot of different, we haven't got to that point in time where we have this interoperability are the the connectivity that will be there in the future. And so essentially you're looking at what kind of bridges you want to participate in.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Start asking yourself, because don't always just think of getting into these cryptocurrencies or NFTs as you're just buying into them. This is actual investing. You're investing your money and your time and energy into these different projects. So be sure that this is something that you truly see as a step forward in the space. And that's going to take a better understanding of the space as a whole. So make sure you slow yourself down a little bit and start really learning about these different platforms, these different technologies, so that you have a better eye and better discernment when you're looking at these projects.
Right. And none of this is financial advice. First and foremost, like, I'm not your financial advisor. Jared's not your financial advisor. But I guess before we leave here, I think, a little question for you before we go. So as somebody who's in the space working, you're helping out people when it comes to understanding cryptocurrencies, NFTs, how they can connect to the metaverse. What is something that truly excites you? Maybe not necessarily a project, but just something in the space that is promising to you and you think has, I guess, as they say in the NFT world, alpha, which is undiscovered yet, information that isn't really known. Is there something that you're really excited about in this space in particular, or is it just more of a broad passion for you because there's a bunch of different avenues you can go into in the metaverse and NFTs as you've already said in the beginning?
I have a background in marketing. I did some marketing for a music artist that I worked with back in San Francisco. And something that I always was pushing for him to do was to find and create a community for his super fans. So not just his fans who like the stuff, but the super fans, the ones who are willing to go crazy over his work. And so in the whole metaverse, I see this as a perfect place to build a community and attract new super fans, whatever line of business or art that you are in. I think this is an opportunity to create super fans, whether that be building a space in one of these virtual worlds like crypto voxels for people to gather, or having NFTs that you can add infinite value to for as long as people have them. It's super fans, being able to build that community around and to showcase, and for your fans to be able to not just say that they're super fans, but to prove it by holding up their NFT and their cryptocurrency wallet. So that's what I would say I'm most excited about.
Yeah, that is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And I know I just said that was the last question, but because of what you said, it sparked another question in my mind that I just have to ask. What do you think about people, as you were saying, these artists who have super fans? They have the ability to make their own virtual worlds, essentially, and you can become a citizen in their virtual world. What do you think about that?
It ties back to what we started with about pride. Like, how cool is that going to be able to say that, yes, I'm a citizen in Kanye West's virtual world in his metaverse? That's a lot of pride. It gives you a lot of social currency that you can use to showcase and build rapport with other people in the real world. So, absolutely, that's an exciting thing to think about, and I'm ready for it.
Right. Well, Jared, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And before we go here, where can people find your work and get in touch with you, or just stay up to date with what you're doing?
Absolutely. I am Jared T. Ross on all platforms. That's my name. That's me on all platforms. That's where you can find me. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you go to Instagram, search up Jared T. Ross. That's where you can find me. You can DM me. I'm probably going to respond. And I do have a text list that you can get access to. So if you're interested in NFTs, just go ahead and text NFT to 214-466-1640, and I'll make sure you're up to date on what projects I'm looking at, the upcoming projects that I'm probably going to be buying, and what NFTs I currently have.
Awesome. Well, Jared, it's been really fun talking with you, man. And once again, I thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I'm excited to see this channel continue to grow, and I'll be staying up to date with you.
All right, man.